Mark, firstly, postponement of the game last Saturday was frustrating initially. I guess on reflection, it was a good opportunity for yourself and the coaches and the rest of the players to just reset and recharge a little.
Yeah, I think so. I think we've had quite a fairly busy spell or whatever in the last few months. So a strange time of the year to not play really when there's been so many games of late. But yeah, they had 2 or 3 internationals, so no problem really. We were able to get a little bit of training in last week, a few days off over the weekend, which was good for everybody, I think. And hopefully they've come back with a good energy about us this week, knowing the task that's ahead of us. 9 games in basically 5 weeks, which is pretty big. We've got about 17 training sessions left, 5 and a bit weeks, 27 points. And funny enough, the Burton game being cancelled takes it to the final week. So the Wednesday that we play Burton in the penultimate game of the season means our final 3 games obviously is Aki, Burton and Forest Green. And our challenge is to try and take it to the last week. So that's what we've got to try and do, and we've got to try and get some positive results between now and then to make sure that that's the case. But I was at Portsmouth last week watching Port Vale, and they certainly first half were excellent, got themselves 2-0 ahead, and Portsmouth came back and did well in the second half. So yeah, we know we're in for a game that Port Vale have done very well this season, in that first season after promotion, and looking forward to going there and trying to compete and seeing if we can have some success and drama like the last time we were.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess there's not many opportunities, and you've said this before, for the players certainly to recharge their batteries in terms of fitness and sharpness, and just being as prepared as you possibly can for the run. And how key has it been to get that bit of extra time in terms of preparation for the final 9, Mark?
Yeah, part of that is just mental freshness, I think. When you go, especially through tough spells like we've had, it can be difficult coming in all the time and trying to put a brave face on or a happy face on or pretend everything's all right. I don't mean pretend, but you know what I mean. Try and have that sort of upbeat character around the place. It's harder to maintain that when the results are going as they are. So sometimes getting away from each other is important, and we had a few extra days to be able to do that, and that in itself can create a little bit of a spark and a bit of a freshness. So hopefully that's what we have going into this run of games, because we certainly need energy. I mean, we play this weekend in a game that is going to need our very best energy levels. Then we have almost a week before the Good Friday game, and then the games really pick up, and we play 2-3 game weeks in the last 5. So certainly the speed at which those games are coming round, I think, is a good thing in the remaining weeks of the season. But I hope that the 2 weeks between the game serves us well over the next 5, and it proves to be a period that has actually helped us rather than stopped us and slowed us down.
Yeah, looking back to the Charlton game a couple of weeks ago, despite defeat, Mark, the second half performance was really encouraging. Has that given you any kind of food for thought or fresh ideas heading into the final 9 games? Because obviously there was a switch in personnel and formation in that game.
Yeah, I mean, it seems ages ago now, to be honest, to try and remember that. I obviously remember the difference between the first and second half. I think in January we mentioned around the ability with the squad that we've got to chop and change the players and the system. It's why we signed what we signed, did what we did. And then the availability of players has sort of got us stuck in being unable to change too much. And we're probably at a point now where we have got that flexibility with the players that we've got available. So I think over the next 5 weeks, I think we'll play, off the top of my head now, if I was planning now, and obviously everything can change with our own availability, our own form, and the opponents of how they're doing, but there's probably 4 systems we might play between now and the end of the season, and lots of different ways in which we can go about the game. And I think both halves of the Charlton game showed us 2 of the ways in which we can play. So having that option and flexibility, I think, is really important, and to keep people guessing in our own team and the opposition is not a bad thing. And in the end, we've got to find the competitive spirit and physical commitment to the game to make sure that it isn't so much the shape that dictates what you do. It will have a big bearing on things, of course, but it isn't the most important thing. There's plenty of other things that probably come above that, but it can certainly contribute. So we expect to see some changes over the coming weeks. Whether that's for this weekend or not, we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, I was going to say, in terms of the formation, obviously, you largely over the last dozen or so games been going with, the three at the back and the wing backs. How do you reflect on, that transition to a different formation for some of the players and the success that you've had with that? And I guess going forward, I was going to ask the question as to whether you will continue with that, but as you said, it very much depends on opposition to an extent.
Oh yeah, we'll definitely continue to play that at times. It allows us the chance to get front two on the pitch, but we've only really had two forwards in this period of time. What with George Thomas, Harvey Nibbs, and Fajiri all being out, so that's sort of taken away a bit of an ability to change that too much. Obviously, Shiloh can dabble with that position as well, but it's changed too many options there. I think we've got some players really well suited to the wing back position, some central defenders really well suited to playing in a back three, and midfield players really suited to playing in a midfield three. So it does suit quite a lot of the players that we've got. Obviously, the longevity or the majority of the time we've been here, the shape's been a bit more off of a back four and a bit of variety in front of that, but mainly a back four. So we've got players that understand that as well. So it gives us one or two different situations. I think we were incredibly close in a number of games to taking results, and we should have done. We know we should be 9-10 points better off from the last 12 or 13 games. Had certain things gone our way, or we executed certain moments better. We certainly should be in a brighter position than we are, because what we know is that system has created us a slightly better expected goals, slightly better creativity in a lot of games, slightly more possession in games, and has made us defensively more robust and harder to score against. So we've certainly seen some statistical improvements, but in the end, no one really cares about that, and nor do we, unless it's the points that the statistic that you get. That obviously is the most important one. We've been close to that, but not close enough. So we've got to keep working on that and other options to see if we can turn those things into a better favour and more points for us.
Say that Charlton game and the changes you made at half time, Mark, and so that switch, and the fact that I think it's 7 defeats in the last 9, and some of the performances I know that you've not been entirely happy with. Has it helped you shape in your mind the players that you think that will be best suited for those final 9 games, and even perhaps looking a little bit further forward on some of the decisions you've got to make during the summer with the players out of contract?
I mean, the further forward bit isn't really a consideration for us at the moment. The 9 games is. We'll need everyone in the 9 games. We've got to play some quick fire games and some big distance travels and follow it up. We've got to play some big teams back to back, which will definitely need to change. So we'll need everybody in those games. And we need everybody at their best level and committing to the game as best they can. So I think everybody will have a part to play in that. Certainly the ones that have been in the squads recently are gonna play for sure, and going to play some games and not others. And in the end, there's probably none of us that can pat ourselves on the back for a strong season. There's probably none of us that can put our hand up and say, I should be first on the team sheet. We've all got to just deal with the situation we're in, give ourselves the best chance in the games that we play, handle the fact that I might be in the team 1 minute and out of it the next, playing one system 1 week and one the next. And we've got to keep finding different ways of trying to get those results. The statistics around the number of results or defeats recently, you can roll that out over the whole season. We are where we are because we've lost too many games. In the end, a number of those games have been very, very close, and we shouldn't have lost them, and we certainly should have won more than we've won, but we haven't, and there's lots of consequences or contributing factors towards that. But in the end, that's for the review at the end. We find ourselves in this situation. There's 9 games to play, 27 points to play for. It's a long shot when you look at the league table at the moment. We've got to do what we did in the first 10 games of the season in the last 9. But while it's possible, we've got to fight for it and go for it, because any chance, any moment, and we feel like we've been saying this for a long while now, any moment you can get a result and others don't, it starts to breathe a little bit of belief and confidence back into you. And if you can get consecutive results, it looks very different. So that's what we've got to try to do in the next few weeks, starting this weekend.
I was going to say, turning to Port Vale, I mean, they've settled well in the main, back into League One life after the promotion last season. But I think it's just 2 wins in the last 14. But they got a decent point down at Portsmouth. You said you were at the game. And what do you feel are their main threats that you'll have to deal with this Saturday? Yeah,
they've got good front two. They've got plenty of options. There's sort of 2 strikers on and then 2 off, and change them throughout the game. Got good energy and experience through the team. They're a back 3 team that are solid and strong, robust, very aggressive, hard running team. fairly direct in the way in which they play, but in a good way. They'll serve the box and make us defend, and they'll run hard on a big surface and a big pitch, and a pitch that isn't the greatest, and the conditions aren't going to be the best. So we've got to make sure that we're up for the fight, and we're up for the scrap, and we're up for that. But when it's chaotic, that we bring control to the game. That's going to be really important for us. So we've got to get that balance right between the two. We've got to cope with their style and try and throw some problems their way, and see if we can find a way of playing that does that. So I think it'll be a really interesting game. They've certainly, they'll say themselves, their run of results recently will have been a bit more disappointing, but I'm sure they're pleased with some of the performances in there, because watching them, they've done well. And as a first season in the league, I'm sure they're quite pleased to be in a position where there's no drama, looking into the final stage of the season.
Yeah, well, Darryl Clark's done a really good job at Port Vale. He's one of those managers that seems to have been around for years, even though he's only 45, and he's got a couple of promotions on his CV with Bristol Rovers, 2 with Salisbury, obviously with Port Vale as well. Is he a manager you've come across much aside of the match day?
No, not a huge amount around away from games. Obviously, he was at Walsall for a little spell as well when we were playing each other in League Two. So he is one that has been around a long time, has managed a heck of a lot of games already, and had really good success. So he's certainly one that I think has done a really good job, and rightly gets linked with a lot of other opportunities when they come up at other clubs. But they're onto a good thing. I think Port Vale, they've built something and are investing well and across different areas, and I think they're onto a good thing. They've found a staff that will really help drive the club forward, and I really like him. I think he's a real good competitor, and he's done a great job, and hopefully we can go and do a job on them this weekend. But he's certainly someone that you look at and admire the career that he's having.
Squad-wise for Saturday, Mark, we saw Harrison dunk to return to the bench for the Charlton game. Liam O'Neill, I think, was unwell. How are the two of those coming along?
Yeah, Liam's not good. He's out with the physios this week, but he's not training at the moment. He's had a slight issue with his hamstring, but he's not too far away from being fit. George Thomas is out on the grass with the physios as well, running. So those two aren't too far away. Fajiri's joined in training this week. He's needs a few weeks yet, but he's making some progress, which is promising for us, and is a bit of a long shot, but he might be able to play some part between now and the end of the season, which would be really helpful for us. Nibsy's been in and out off the grass. To be honest, he's a little issue with his knee last weekend, which we've needed to give a bit of time to sort of slow down. Joey had a few days off the grass similarly. A little issue that's settled down, and he's trained this week. Harrison's had a full training week, so he's sort of back in action. So we're in a very similar position to what we were going into the last game.
So Adam, obviously, from what you said, the only player that will definitely be out for the entirety of the season. So Ibsen Rossi, how's he coming along, Mark?
Yeah, he will be out until the new season. So he's still in the gym at the moment, building up and all sorts, but he's not out on the grass yet. So that'll be at some point before the end of the season. But when you know that we're only talking, if you rush it, you might get a week or two. We're taking that one quite slowly, just to give him plenty of time, and working really hard in the gym. So with Adam as well at the moment, which is good. They're coming on nicely, and they'll be in good form, I'm sure, come pre-season.
Yeah, obviously, we're not playing last week. Results elsewhere during the week, and obviously last Saturday, have gone in your favour to an extent. The gap's 7 points plus the goal difference. Do you think there's still enough positivity around it in the camp to know that things go your way on Saturday and you get a win yourselves? There's still a chance of surviving.
Well, there's still a chance. It's still a good chance, because the odds are against us, certainly, and not many people would give us a chance. I think we've been written off. So that's fine, because that's the situation we find ourselves in. I wouldn't say the place is a positive place. It's a really frustrated place, but it's a team that understands that things can change very quickly, and we've got to do everything we can to try and take it to the last week. That's our challenge. So while that's still possible, that's what we've got to show that we're fighting for, and hope that if we get a couple of results go in our favour, the mood changes very quickly.
All right, thanks, Mark. That's all from me.
Cheers, Doug.
Hi, Mark. You mentioned about Fajiri having a chance of making a comeback for the end of the season. Is that the case for George Thomas as well, then?
It's potentially, yeah. I mean, it's difficult because they're really early stages after quite long injuries, but we've got 5 weeks. Obviously, what we can't do is put them in before they're ready, but we are going at pace to try and really push them back as quickly as we can. So there is a bit of a long shot on both of those, but there is a chance. We want to try and take this to the last week, and we want to try and have as many players available for that week as possible. So we'll keep working with them. Obviously, you have a lovely plan in mind, but any day that can set back and change very quickly. But certainly our ambition and theirs would be to try and have some part to play between now and the end of the season.
With Lewis Simper going out on loan to Wealdstone, were you just confident with that loan spell that he would get the games that he needs? Because it seems like he is at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, that was sort of the deal, really, and the guarantee that he was going to play those couple of games. The first couple of games, it's now up to him to stay in the team. That's no different for anybody. But we're certainly riding a line between being here, training and pushing yourself versus playing games. And if an opportunity's come to get real regular game time, which it has so far, and he's done quite well in his first couple of games, that's really important for him. So fingers crossed he can get 10 games between now and the end of the season, or between the start and the end of the season, because that will be really beneficial to him going into the summer.
With Port Vale, obviously, last season you did really well to establish yourselves as a League One club. How well do you think they've done to be able to have a season that they've had where they've pretty much avoided relegation danger throughout?
Yeah, it's similar. It's a really similar sort of story to us last year. Never in the bottom six, never really in trouble. I think what happens is when you come up for the first time, there's a real enthusiasm, a real excitement around, and a real momentum behind you that just carries on, and that certainly did. You look at the run of form recently, the results have stuttered a little bit, but prior to that momentum just kept going. It's really hard for that to just continue permanently, so that fizzles a little bit at some point, and you, like we found last year, we had to be absolutely flat out to get results, and that takes its toll as the season goes on. So it's always hard to maintain that, but they've certainly got off to a great start this season. I'm sure they'll be really pleased with that and looking to build on it.